We could be looking at a Bitcoin ETF actually launching soon, with Grayscale battling the SEC. They actually won their court case against them, and now everyone is super excited about a Bitcoin ETF coming. With that excitement, obviously the price of Bitcoin reacted with a massive pump up from like 26,000 up to 28,000, and then kind of the day after today, kind of leveling off, dropping a little bit, and moving down a bit, but still obviously up from where it started. And if we zoom out even more, you can kind of see this trough here from around the 30K mark, went down to 25, 26, and now we're come up a little bit, not fully recovered, but you can see just kind of the moves going on here. And I think both of these moves had to do with ETF news. I think this first one was negative ETF news, and this one was positive one. So obviously a Bitcoin ETF from either BlackRock or Grayscale. Those are the big names kind of involved right now. But BlackRock, obviously the biggest one. If they get an ETF, everyone's just assuming there's going to be massive amounts of money pushed in. And with obviously not so much Bitcoin to have around, you can see that the Bitcoin amount of Bitcoin on exchanges is not actually that high. It's actually dropping for the first time ever in a like a halving cycle, an epoch. And you can see that with this here. So for 1, 2, and 3, all of them have positive inflows daily to exchanges. This is the first one where we have a negative outflow of Bitcoin from exchanges. And that is insane because that means there's less and less Bitcoin for people to try and buy. So, in the event that one of these ETFs get approved, whether it's BlackRock, Grayscale, Valkyrie, any of these guys, if they get approved and there's a lot of inflow of money trying to buy that ETF and institutions want to buy it to maybe get some exposure to Bitcoin or something goes on with them, there's not a lot of Bitcoin to go around. And obviously, if that ends up happening and there's not enough Bitcoin to go around, the price has to go up in order to match that so that people can buy the Bitcoin. If there's more demand than supply, price has to go up, right? It's pretty simple. And right now, that's what we're kind of looking at. And if we, you can see people getting a little bit more bullish on this ETF stuff coming out. We have some anchors here. CNBC, senior market correspondent on Bitcoin ETFs. He said, my bet would be eventually sometime in the fall, they approve them, all of them. And the problem here is that or the problem for the ETFs at least, is that there's whoever gets approved first is basically the winner, right? That they're going to have the network effect, the liquidity. They are going to be able to be the biggest ETF. Whoever gets approved first, that's just how it's going to work. They're not going to be able to approve someone and then a month later approve someone else, and you're going to really compete with who got approved first, unless whoever did it first royally messes up something and destroys their fund or ETF and it just doesn't work out. That's the only way you could compete with them, with whoever gets approved first. They are going to be the winners. As for Grayscale and the SEC stuff going on, the argument wasn't too insane from Grayscale, honestly, saying, them saying Grayscale's argument was that the SEC's reasoning to approve or deny a spot ETF shouldn't meaningfully differ from the reasoning for a futures-based ETF, and the court agreed. And that doesn't seem like something that's too insane to say. Like, for some reason, there's these futures ETFs that get approved left and right, and every other month it seems like there's some sort of futures ETF coming out, but they can't get a spot one. That doesn't make any sense. And the court agrees. Grayscale fights that, and they are obviously on the way of kind of showing the SEC that maybe it's time to get a spot ETF out. It's no longer time to sit back and keep denying these ETFs. You're going to have to get them out, especially with futures ones. So it's a point that makes a lot of sense. But if you also look at Grayscale, they are in an interesting position because Grayscale is obviously this trust. They have a ton of Bitcoin, and the way that they make money off of their trust is that they have a 2% fee on the Bitcoin that's in that trust, not the dollar amount, not the how much the trust is worth in dollars, how much it is worth in Bitcoin, how much Bitcoin it has. They take 2% of that. And I think right now they're getting something like 30 Bitcoin a day from that trust on just the fees. And they're in a problem Because if they want to turn into an ETF, which they're grandstanding on social media like they want to, because they have to, it's a popular thing to do, right? But if they do that, their fee is going to drop by like 4x. It's going to get cut in fourth. So it's going to go from 2% to 0.7%, 0.75 or something like that, which is just going to be crazy for their revenue because it's going to drastically drop the fees. So they're going to have to 4x the amount of Bitcoin that they have in their management in order to make the same amount of money. And they're also not really allowed to not push to become an ETF because, like we said, if they aren't first, they lose. So if they are in an insane spot right now where they have this 2% fee, they're making tons of money hand over fist, pulling out 30 Bitcoin a day from their trust. And if they want to get to the ETF, they have to be first. Because if you're not first, you're going to lose. So they're in a weird spot where they can't stay in their fee generating 2% thing because they have to fight to become an ETF, which is going to plummet their revenues, but they have to do it because if they're not first, they're last. So they're really in a lose-lose. And of course, with all the news comes a little bit of the conspiracy theories as to what's really going on behind the scenes. And this is some of the stuff that I've seen talked about quite a bit, saying Gensler understands Bitcoin. That's why he's not accepted a spot ETF. He knows that what it will do to the price. Since he works for the elite, he needs to wait until they are done stacking. Which, I mean, maybe, right? I guess. Like, it's not a crazy theory, but at the same time, I mean, if you wanted the Bitcoin, you can go get it if you're the elite, right? We see Michael Saylor buying hundreds of millions of dollars, billions of dollars worth of Bitcoin. Tesla bought billions of dollars. Cash App has like tens of millions. So if you want to buy a large sum of Bitcoin, you can figure out ways to do it. You don't necessarily need to, do it slowly and somehow figure out how to do it without this ETF coming out. It seems like a lot of moving parts there that aren't necessarily making too much sense. But at the end of the day, the Bitcoin ETF is closer than it was before. Seems like the SEC is kind of losing this battle as to why they're not putting one out because the futures things and no spot makes literally no sense. It's made no sense the entire time, and now they've kind of got called out by the courts. So maybe they have to flip. Maybe they come out and approve a bunch of these ETFs, probably starting with BlackRock, Valkyrie, and Grayscale, and just kind of pushing them out maybe around the same time, which could mean BlackRock becomes the winner and they become the main stage ETF that everyone flows into. That's going to do it for this video. As always, don't forget to smash the like button and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in my next video.